I'm 16, and I accidentally got pregnant. My parents said this is my fault, so I'm being forced to give birth, and then they are going to give it away for adoption as punishment. I got pregnant by someone I work with. He's 18 and is about to graduate from high school. He's not my boyfriend or anything, we were never in a relationship like that. I mean, I wish he was, but he doesn't seem interested in that. He's planning to join the military after he graduates. We're friends, he flirts with me, and I lost my first time to him. He didn't force me or anything like that. We've had sex multiple times. I'm 15 weeks pregnant now, and everyone knows. Well, not everyone, because I'm still hiding it from a lot of people. But he knows, and my parents know. I'm embarrassed by it. I feel like an idiot, like a joke, like trash. I just wish I could hide until after the baby's born. I never want to leave my house. My parents are basically forcing me to give the baby up for adoption. I live in a state with heavy termination restrictions, and it's way too late to even get one now. My parents don't believe in termination either. They told me this is my punishment for getting pregnant, that I deserve to have to deal with being pregnant now. They've decided that I'm giving the baby away and have already set up a meeting with an adoption agency. They say they won't let me ruin my life with a baby, and they aren't going to raise my baby either. So, this is the only other option? My mom keeps saying, "You'll thank us later." I didn't get pregnant on purpose. I don't really want to be a mom right now. I turned 17 over the summer and will only be starting my junior year next year. At the same time, going through pregnancy and giving birth just to give my baby away terrifies me. I don't know if I can live with it. It literally makes me feel like I want to throw up or pass out. I feel like I have no choice but to go along with what my parents want. It's not like I could support myself, let alone myself and a baby. I could never just do it on my own. I was too scared to get a termination earlier on before I told my parents I was pregnant. I was so scared that I'd get in trouble, but now I realize that probably would have been the easiest thing for me. If anyone reading this has given a baby up for adoption and survived it, please let me know what it was like. Do you get over it? Do you really end up feeling like it's the best thing for them and you're able to just live with it? Update 1 month 1 week later. I'm 20 weeks pregnant now and will turn 17 within the next few weeks. My parents are still forcing me to give my baby up for adoption. We've met with an adoption agency. The adoption counselor knows that I don't want to do adoption. She asked to speak with me privately without my parents present to ask me a series of questions. I was honest and told her I didn't want to give my baby away, but I had no other choice. She seems to feel bad about it and told me that I will ultimately have to sign the papers after the baby is born. My parents cannot sign the papers, but unfortunately, without my parents' help, I have no other options. The adoption counselor talked to us about the option of my parents adopting my baby, which I don't really want either. No worries, my parents aren't interested in raising another baby. My parents want me to look at the potential families. I'm trying to look at them, but it's so weird thinking that I'm looking at parents for my own baby. I know I'm not ready to be a mom, but it's still so weird. None of this feels like it's happening to me. I've talked to the baby's father. He graduated high school and goes off to basic training later this summer. I think he'd be fine with adoption. He said he doesn't really know what other options we have. We could get married since the military would at least help pay for a place to live, and we'd have medical benefits, but I can't get married without parental consent. We don't love each other. What kind of marriage would that be? But it seems like the only realistic solution. I hate the idea of being married at 17 years old to a person who doesn't genuinely want to be married to me. Another option, which still involves marriage, might be for his parents to help out, even take care of the baby, and let me see him or her until I'm 18 and do not need my parents' permission to get married. That doesn't really seem fair to them. He could try to object to an adoption, but it's not guaranteed that his wishes would be respected. Plus, then what happens to the baby? His parents seem like good people. I don't know them well, but I've met them. They're worried about what this will do to his future, but they told my parents they believe it should be our decision and that it's their job as parents to help us. My parents basically said it's their job to protect me and that all of the responsibility will fall on me and it'll be my life that's ruined. Our families met to discuss everything, but it was really just my parents telling them what was going to happen and that they and their son have no say. Second update 1 week later. I don't know why I'm suddenly getting a ton of responses to my post from a week ago, but I figured I'd post an update because a few things have changed. I had an ultrasound on Friday and found out I'm having a baby boy. He's basically fully formed and just needs to get bigger now. I saw his head and his nose, and they even got a picture of the bottom of his 2 feet together because he was sort of sideways at first, and we had to get him to move. It looks sort of like footprints. I could clearly see his little hands and everything. So I already said it in my previous post, but people are still sending me information about termination. I know those people are trying to help, And I wish I had maybe reached out here when I first found out I was pregnant, since I didn't know I could get pills mailed to my house. I just can't get a termination now. It's a fully formed baby. I even named him. It won't solve my problem at this point, because my biggest problem with adoption is how I'm going to live with it mentally for the rest of my life. Now that I know it's a baby moving around in there and stuff, I think I would also not be able to mentally handle a termination now. If it was still just a lump of cells, I'd feel different, but I was too scared to do anything then. I want to keep my baby. I don't want anyone else to have him. This is my baby. I don't think I can survive handing him over to somebody else. It's not fair. I know I made a mistake and I shouldn't have had sex. I shouldn't have sat there doing nothing when I could have gotten a termination and saved myself all this suffering and still had my parents' love and acceptance, since they'd never have to know. They called me a SLT. I have barely any privacy anymore. What do they think I'm going to do? After the ultrasound, I sent the baby's father the pics. He wasn't there. My parents don't want him or his family involved now, probably because I told them he offered to marry me and they yelled at me for even considering that. I told him I can't give the baby away and asked if his parents were really serious about helping and if he'd hate me for keeping it. He said he won't hate me. I still think he'll blame me for ruining his life. He already told me he thinks adoption is the best choice. If we got married and he got caught cheating on me, even if I was okay with it, he could get in a lot of trouble. He said, "Why would I cheat on you?" He said he likes me and wouldn't have had sex with me if he didn't like me. He just didn't see the point in us being in a relationship since he was leaving anyway. It was just easier that way. The thing is, I know I'm not the only girl he's been with during that time. I'm not naive enough to think I'm special to him or that he loves me. We both know it's sort of ridiculous to imagine us being married or acting like adults, but I guess that's what you have to do if you have a baby. I can't really imagine being a wife, but maybe it wouldn't be too bad, and I'd get to move away from my parents. He said it's really weird to think about, but I have very few options, and he doesn't know what else he's supposed to offer. He's going to talk to his parents since I'm too shy to. I guess I'm assuming they were just saying it to be nice, but are probably happy my parents are making me go through with the adoption. He says his parents aren't like that. I'm really just an inconvenience to everyone, and if I keep my baby, he might end up not liking me too. I don't want to screw up my baby's life. I would do everything I could to be a good mom. I would grow up and learn how to be a wife, mom, and an adult. I can't imagine living after giving my baby to somebody else. Third update 3 weeks later. I'm 24 weeks pregnant now. I just turned 17. My parents have been trying to force me to give my baby boy up for adoption. I've made several posts about it. They said if I keep the baby, I'll be doing it all on my own. They aren't going to help me in any way. The baby's father's family is willing to help me though. The baby's father isn't my boyfriend. I know that probably sounds bad. We were never officially in a relationship, just friends really. But his parents have been a lot nicer throughout this whole thing. I don't know them well, but I'm getting to know them better now. I'm going to have to, since they are willing to help me/us. They aren't really happy that I'm pregnant, but they believe it should have been my decision about what to do about the pregnancy and eventual baby, and that as parents, it's their job to help and support that decision. He's joining the military. His dad is retired military, his brother is in the military, and it's what he's always wanted to do. He just started basic training. So, the plan is that we're going to get married when his family and I go out there for his graduation. Unless he changes his mind between now and then, which he might. I know he might. He hasn't said that, but I'm just scared he will. There wasn't time to do it before he left. Anyway, his tech school is over a year long, so the baby and I could move out there with him if need be. Or I can stay with his family here until he goes to his permanent duty station. That would allow me to graduate high school instead of getting a GED, or at least finish the next year of high school normally. I need notarized approval to take the GED at 17, and my parents refuse, but they've agreed to sign paperwork to allow me to get married. I don't understand them. I don't understand how they'd rather allow me to get married and go live with another family instead of just allowing me and my baby to live at home until I finished school and turned 18. It makes no sense. I'm not even a parent yet, and I wouldn't let my 17-year-old get married. If it was between my 17-year-old getting married and moving across the country, or supporting her decision to keep her baby and assisting her with finding resources to enable her to parent, I know which option I'd choose as the parent, and it wouldn't be marriage. It hurts so bad. They'd essentially said if he's going to marry me and his family is going to help us, then I'm not their problem now, so they'll sign off on that. They yelled at me, called me names, and locked me in my room. I could go back to being the daughter they love if I would just go along with their plan, but things will never be the same between us again. His parents were the ones who convinced my parents to approve of the marriage. They met with my parents. Actually, we all met together. They've been the only ones advocating for me at all. They want me to finish school. They're going to help me arrange childcare, and I'm going to move in with them before the baby is born. I will take my newborn baby home to their house. I don't even know these people. It's strange and uncomfortable for me, but I'm at the point where I can't be picky about what help is offered. Luckily, the baby will be covered by his dad's insurance no matter what, and I will be covered by insurance once we're married. I'm not planning to depend on military benefits to address all our needs. It's just one piece of the puzzle. After I graduate, I plan to get certified in something that has good career prospects and pays well. I'm going to be smart about what field I select, and I will use any opportunity to find grants or scholarships to help pay. My parents want me to go straight to a traditional 4-year college. I'm in honors classes now. I get really good grades. I scored very high on the PSAT. I should go to college, but I'm not really interested in any of the career fields that make college worth it financially, in my eyes. Unless I got a huge scholarship, I'd be paying mostly with student loans. So I'm looking into other avenues where I can enter my chosen career field much sooner and start making good money quicker without incurring so much debt. I'm really scared about everything. I've never had to do any adult things. I've blown up my whole life by getting pregnant and not going along with my parents' plan. I don't even feel like I have parents now. I never thought my family would end up this way. I sort of just want to go along with their plan because in many ways, it'd be a lot easier. I could go back to my life and still be accepted by my parents and have their love and support again, but my life will never be the same. I think I'd regret taking the easy way out. I don't think adoption would be easy for me at all, but as far as day-to-day life struggles, it'd probably be easier. I think I'd grow up and hate myself for doing it, and I'd never be able to undo it. What I'm doing now is the only option that I don't think I'll spend my whole life regretting. At least it won't make me feel like a coward. I still feel sick to my stomach when I think about everything that's happening. That I'm going to live with virtual strangers. That I'm going to get married. That I will eventually move across the country and be a mom and a wife before I can even legally drink. Although moving across the country doesn't sound too bad right now. I just don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm probably taking on too much, but it still makes me happier than when I thought I'd have no choice but to sign adoption papers. Fourth update 1 week later. Hi, I've literally received over hundreds of DMs. Some are very long messages, and I'm feeling somewhat overwhelmed. I can't respond to all of them, but I've replied to some. Some people have been incredibly nice, and I even cried happy tears over some of them because I can't believe how kind and supportive complete strangers are being. It means a lot because I obviously don't have a huge amount of support in real life, and I feel very alone, even though his parents want to help. Other messages are trying to convince me to choose adoption, while some are just outright cruel and have also made me cry. But the truly disturbing ones are from people wanting to adopt my baby, despite my repeated requests for them to stop messaging me. So, I'll say it again, I'm not giving my baby up for adoption. If I did choose that, I wouldn't pick someone who sent me an unsolicited message on Reddit. If the people who have messaged me about adopting my baby are real, you're giving adoptive and hopeful adoptive parents a very bad name. Look, I understand why some people think I should place my baby for adoption, but you're wasting your time trying to convince me now. My decision is made. I'm keeping my baby. I know it's going to be very hard. I have to give up a lot. I have to take on responsibilities I wasn't prepared for at this time in my life. I'm very scared. I know this is something I have to dedicate myself to completely, and I'm committed to my decision. I'm moving forward, even if I'm scared to death. What would be supportive right now is information from military spouses that might help prepare me, educate me on resources, or connect me to where I can find information. If you know of any non-military resources I might want to look into, I'd love to hear about them. If you have any career suggestions, I'm totally open to them. I don't plan to go to a 4-year college right away, maybe later if it aligns with my life in the future. After I graduate high school or get my GED, I want to get training and certifications in a good job field that I can enter quickly and that pays well. This isn't wishful thinking, I know these jobs exist. Some jobs, such as teaching, require a college degree and don't pay well at all. Some trades, however, pay very well. I don't think I'm being unreasonable by foregoing a 4-year degree right now. I don't have 4 years to wait to get into a career. If you have parenting advice, especially anything related to newborns, I'd really appreciate it. Also, a more trivial question, should I wear a white dress to get married? I'm getting married at the courthouse and will be obviously pregnant. My parents would say no to white, but they aren't involved and don't get a say. I feel kind of silly wearing a white dress. I'm not talking about a formal wedding gown, obviously, it's not that type of event. I don't think being married, Being a parent, or being a military spouse will be easy or like a Hallmark movie, but I believe this is the best option for me, and it will remove some of the biggest immediate stressors from my shoulders. We're getting married. It's not something we're considering, it's something we've decided. He is the one who suggested it in the first place. This is our plan. I know he could change his mind over the next several weeks, and that's just me being realistic. We'll cross that bridge if we come to it. We'll be able to communicate before graduation, so he better tell me then if he's changed his mind. I'll be attending his graduation with his parents, and we will be getting married that weekend. After that, I'll return home with his parents. I'll be living with them and am preparing for that right now. I will eventually move to where he is stationed so we can both raise our son. His parents shouldn't be my co-parents, and there's no other way for him to be involved if I don't move to where he is. He said this is his child and his responsibility. I know he's not happy to be having a baby now or to be having one with me. But he's willing to take responsibility, and he says he wants to be a good dad. At home, not much has changed. Things are extremely tense between my parents and me. They regularly remind me how stupid my plan is and how I'll be doing this all alone without their support. I spend most of my time in my room. I still have my part-time job, and I'm thankful when I'm not home. I have plenty of research and planning to keep me busy, though. Also, it wasn't statutory rape. He was 17 when I got pregnant. I mean, he turned 18 within days of when it happened, but he was still 17. He did nothing wrong. He did not coerce me. He didn't lead me on or lie to me. We both screwed up. I'm also not doing this just to have a baby to play with. I'm not a parent yet, so I can't truly know how hard it is, but I know it will be the hardest thing I've ever done and could break me. I don't think having a baby is like having a fun toy. But I love my baby, my little boy. I'm keeping him. I'm his mom. I'm going to do whatever I have to do for him. Do you think I want to move in with strangers? Do you think I want to get married under these circumstances? Leave school? Possibly struggle every step of the way from here on out? I know adoption would be the option that would allow me to avoid all of that, but this is my choice, and I don't want to be separated from my baby. 5th update 3 weeks later. I'm just feeling really sad and lonely. I guess that's why I'm really posting an update here. School started on Tuesday. My normal group of friends at school is basically ignoring me. At lunch, I sit at the table with them, but I'm sort of all by myself at the end, and nobody talks to me. They ignore me in the halls. I'd rather they just say something to me, tell me they never want to talk to me again or something. Just come out with it, you know? I wanted to continue school. I don't know if I'll end up dropping out and getting my GED. I will definitely get my GED if I don't finish regular high school. My parents won't give me the required approval, but once I'm married, that requirement should be waived. I feel like getting my GED as soon as I can might be the smartest move. That way, I could start a full-time job and figure out what sort of certification or further education I want to pursue. Another part of me wants to finish regular high school just to prove I can. I'm not interested in having the traditional high school experience at this point. That went out the window a while ago. It'll be so hard to manage school with a baby, though, and I don't know how much longer I can take being the pregnant outcast. It's like everyone just stares at me. Nobody says anything mean to my face, they just don't talk to me at all anymore. I've also moved into my baby's father's parents' house. That's complicated. He's not really my boyfriend. I guess he's my fiancé, but that feels weird to say. My future in-laws? I don't know. It all sounds surreal. They're so nice. There's nothing wrong with them. But I've cried myself to sleep every night. I'm so sad. Even though my parents were upset with my decision and things were tense, with little communication in the last few weeks, I still miss my home and my room. I guess it's not really my home anymore, and it never will be again, and that also makes me cry. They set up a bedroom for me here. They painted the walls my favorite color. They got new furniture for me and everything. They didn't have to do any of that. I don't really know how to react. I feel like I owe them something. It makes me feel uncomfortable in a way. I still can't believe my parents just let me go. I thought maybe they'd change their minds. They don't agree with any of my decisions, and they've made that very clear. 6th update 3 weeks later. I'm about to be 32 weeks pregnant now. I can't believe I'm due in 8 weeks. That's just 2 months. I could actually have a baby by Halloween, and that's crazy to me. Seeing all the Halloween stuff out everywhere scares me, but not for the reasons it's supposed to. It scares me because it reminds me of how close I am to giving birth. I'm married now. No matter how many times I say it, it doesn't feel real. It seems like a joke or a bad dream. I don't really like thinking of myself as married. It's weird. I'm a kid, really. It makes me feel sort of sick when I say it. We got married this week after he graduated from basic training. His parents and I traveled together, and his older brother, who is also in the military, met us there. It was the first time I had ever met him. After his graduation, he had a day pass, and we went to the courthouse and got married. I got very nervous beforehand and started crying, saying I couldn't do it. In the end, I did it. I think his family might have been a little upset with me, and then I asked that they not be there when we actually got married since my family wasn't there. Having his family there but not mine would have just been too sad for me. Maybe that was wrong of me, I don't know. I just felt so weird about the whole thing. I felt nauseous the whole time, so uncomfortable. He was sort of annoyed with me because I'm the one who wants to keep the baby so badly, so I'm supposedly the reason behind all of this. Didn't know that meant I couldn't have a moment of panic right before it happened. It's not something I want to publicly advertise right now. It just feels so weird. Some people know about it and keep asking me for all these details, and it's like, I don't want to talk about it. It wasn't some sort of cute, special, romantic thing. His mom was being annoying too. Not on purpose. I know she was trying to do some nice, sweet, special things for us given the circumstances, but I didn't want any of that. It just made me feel so uncomfortable. Ordering a special wedding cake dessert for us, giving me jewelry from her family, I wanted to scream. But I don't know how to communicate that I don't want any of that and that it makes me feel uncomfortable without hurting feelings. So he told her for me. That made me feel bad. I went to this meeting they have for new military spouses. I felt like I was about to have an anxiety attack and pass out. I didn't want to go. It was like, for spouses? Oh, I'm not a spouse, it's not for me. Then I realized I am one. We're back home now, I mean, me and his parents. He'll be heading to his tech school, which is far away from here. It's a long tech school. No guarantee he'll even be able to come home when our baby is born. He definitely will miss the birth either way. I get that that's just how the military works, but it's so foreign to me, it's something I still have to get used to. I guess I don't have much more to update right now. 7th update 1 month later. It's been about a month since I last updated, and now I'm also about a month away from my due date. I'm still living with my in-laws. It feels really weird saying in-laws. My life feels unreal to me a lot of the time, to the point where I sometimes have to focus hard to figure out if this is reality or a dream. I can't imagine giving birth. I mean, I think about it all the time, and I'm terrified of it, but part of me thinks, no, that's not really going to happen to me. I frequently have dreams about going into labor, but the dream never gets to the end. I never actually see the baby being born in the dreams. I hope that's not a bad sign of something that's going to happen. No matter how many times I dream of it, the dream never gets to that part. I also started the process of changing my last name. It's really strange to think about having a new name now, especially given the circumstances and why we actually got married. Normally, I assume spouses want to have the same name, and it's some sort of happy, exciting thing to change your name to your husband's. I'm really only doing it because I want to have the same last name as my son, and I don't want to have the same last name as my parents anymore. Speaking of my parents, I haven't really talked to them. It's not like they've reached out to me. My mom called my in-laws, she was drunk and accused them of stealing me away from her, then she called me a SLT. That's funny, considering my parents both signed the form giving me permission to get married. They wouldn't sign a form permitting me to get my GED, and they wouldn't allow me to simply live under their roof with my baby for just a little while. It didn't have to be this way. They wouldn't do anything to help me. I was never asking them to raise my child for me. I haven't heard from my dad at all, not once. I keep thinking about contacting them, but to say what? Somehow, I feel guilty for not reaching out to them. I feel like I need to maintain that relationship for some reason, and if the relationship becomes non-existent, it'll be my fault. Right now, I just have no family. I know technically I do, on paper. And my in-laws are nice, and they're doing their best, but I don't know them. Plus, they're part of the reason I felt like I had to get married, to make them feel more comfortable helping me. I was overwhelmed by all the comments after my last post. Everyone thought I was being really ungrateful for everything my in-laws are doing. I didn't want them there when we got married. I can't even really call it a wedding. I'm not the one who told them I didn't want them there. I felt awkward having anyone there because the whole thing was so weird, having people watch me get married when it was this totally bizarre situation, all because I had sex with their son and got pregnant. It was just so embarrassing for me. But I never would have actually said to their faces that I didn't want them there or that they couldn't be there. I'm too nice to say that. I'm smart enough to know that would hurt their feelings. I made the mistake of sharing my feelings with my now husband, and he told his family. He didn't mean any harm by it, but I didn't really intend for him to tell them. I've apologized to them for what happened. They say they understand, and maybe one day we'll want to have a real ceremony. I don't know about that, but I wasn't going to argue. Some people seem to think I'm just acting like a brat 24/7 around his family, but I'm definitely not. I'm very polite. I still feel like a guest in their home, and let's face it, I'm a guest here. I still don't feel at home, but that's not their fault. They're trying. It's not that I'm not trying or intentionally acting ungrateful, I just can't relax, feel comfortable, or treat this like my home. I'm in polite guest mode at all times and don't really know how to act differently. I don't hide in my room all day. As awkward and uncomfortable as it is for me, I do spend time with them and talk with them. His mom goes above and beyond, and I worry about what might happen when the baby gets here. Maybe I'm just not used to such a maternal, caring person, but it's a bit overwhelming for me. She makes me breakfast every day and packs me lunches, and not just normal school lunches, but restaurant quality ones. I don't necessarily want her making me breakfast every day, but I can't figure out how to tell her that without hurting her feelings. She's kind of a smotherer in a way, but with good intentions. I can easily see her wanting to help with the baby, showing me things, and telling me the right way to do everything, and then me not knowing how to tell her to back off and let me be the parent. I know I'm going to need her help, I just don't want her to do everything. I think she's the type who would if I let it happen. My husband is at his tech school now and will be there for over a year, assuming he doesn't get washed back for not performing up to standards or whatever they call it. He's allowed to have his cell phone on him in class in case anything happens, aka, I go into labor. But he's not allowed to leave when the baby is born. They'll authorize him to come home for a weekend, but he has to have permission to leave the area. So he'll literally have a weekend to fly here, meet the baby, and then go back. If there's a serious emergency, that would be different. He's also got permission to fly home for Thanksgiving, by which time the baby will probably be a few weeks old. That'll only be about 3.5 days total, and then he'll have a slightly longer stay for Christmas. His parents are already talking about all of us going out to visit him once the baby is old enough to travel. But how old should a baby be before it's really safe to travel by plane? It's basically across the country, so it'll have to be by plane. At school, the teachers have actually been really nice. My teachers have always liked me, but now I think they feel sorry for me and pity me, and I don't like that feeling. Contrary to some of the comments on my previous post, I have not dropped out of school. I'm finishing this semester at my regular school. I go to class like normal and also meet with a tutor to work ahead on some classes and assignments. The baby will be born before the semester is over, though, so a few weeks after the baby is born, a tutor will be working with me to finish my classes and take my exams. This is assuming the birth is normal with no complications. I've completely changed my baby name choice. Good thing I didn't paint the name I had chosen on the wall or get anything with that name on it. I just hope I don't completely change my mind on his name once he's actually here and it's on his birth certificate. 8th update 17 days later. My baby is here. My son was born on November 3rd. I just haven't had time to come here and post. It was worse than I thought it would be, and I already thought it was going to be very bad, but I think it was the actual moment of going into labor that scared me the most. I just hated not knowing when it would happen or what it'd be like. I also really didn't want it to happen at school, so I got lucky that it happened on the weekend. At first, things seemed to be moving fast, and the doctor and nurses said I was progressing quickly for my first time. But then it was like I just got stuck and wasn't dilating at all for several hours. I was stuck at 7 centimeters forever, and the doctor was seriously talking about me possibly needing a C-section if nothing changed within another 45 minutes. I was in tears, praying for something to happen so I wouldn't need a C-section. I've never had any surgery before or even needed stitches. Luckily, things started moving again, but slowly. So the last several hours of labor were horrendous because it took so long, but still better than an emergency C-section. He was 8 pounds 8 ounces and perfectly healthy. He's just perfect in every way. I love him so much. I can't believe he's my baby. I'm his mom forever. It's so overwhelming, but in a good way. My brain just can't accept it yet. We're home now, and really, it's just about getting through each day at the moment. How do you even think about anything else? All I'm doing is thinking about him 24/7, anticipating when he'll need to be fed or changed next, wondering if something's wrong with him, checking if he's breathing. My brain literally can only think about him and nothing else. I see now how people can forget to eat or not have time to shower. I'm tired, but I think maybe I'm still sort of on a high because I don't feel exhausted yet. I'm sure I'll feel that way very soon, though. I can't really wrap my head around the fact that I gave birth, like, I actually did it. It's so weird not being pregnant anymore. Physically, I still feel pregnant. My mom was there during the birth, which was very awkward for me. I told her when I was in labor, I don't know why. I wanted to tell her, and then I did, and then I sort of wished I hadn't. My mother-in-law was also there. It was very uncomfortable for me, but it was really just my mom who I wanted to go away. She was just being so critical of everything and everyone. So I asked her to leave. Of course, she didn't like that, and I cried. I wanted to have my mom there, but not like that. And I felt bad that I hurt her feelings and that she was upset about it. My parents did come back later to meet the baby. I just don't really understand. You wanted me to place him for adoption, and then you wouldn't do anything to support me in keeping him. Why are you pretending like this is all so normal now? My mom also doesn't like the name I picked out and says she doesn't want to call him that. Too bad. I did keep my baby's dad updated throughout labor. I just feel too weird calling him my husband. He had been allowed to keep his phone on in class just in case something happened. He is actually home now, but only for a few days. They previously authorized him to come home this weekend. I was surprised at how emotional I was when he met our baby for the first time. I don't know, it was probably more about my son meeting his dad for the first time. My son. Well, at least that feels more natural than when I say my husband or my in-laws. I've had a few months to get used to those terms, and they still feel completely foreign. But now that he's home, I've noticed his mom wants to baby him and do everything for him, including taking care of the baby. I was actually glad when he wouldn't let her change a diaper because he said he needed to learn how to do it. I'm not really asking him to do a whole lot, though. I figure he has like 3 days to relax, so I've still been the one getting up at night, but that's okay. So yeah, there was probably other stuff I was going to share here, but I can't remember now. Sorry. 9th update 1 month 3 weeks later. Long update on me, my son, and my new family. I have received a ton of DMs over the last month, and I'm no longer comfortable talking in DMs due to a few people I had been speaking with who became weird. They pretended to be adult women who were moms and wanted to give advice, and then after days worth of conversation, it became very clear that wasn't the case. It creeped me out, which is one reason I haven't posted in a while. I've also been really busy with the baby and returning to school. I didn't actually return to school physically, I finished the semester from home, but it was a lot of work. It was probably more actual homework than if I had been attending regular classes because they had to make up for me not being there for in-class activities and discussions. I basically feel like I did nothing other than take care of my son and do schoolwork. When I wasn't doing one, I was doing the other. I had a few meltdowns, but I finished it. Being a mom is hard. It's really hard. I'm really tired, and I even have a lot of help. I don't regret my decision at all, though. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed, and I think, why did I do this? Sometimes it feels like I can't do it, and I'm sure I'm going to fail, not if, but when. But when I'm having a bad day and he stares right at my face, like he's looking directly into my eyes, and we connect like that while I'm holding him, I feel a lot of comfort and no regret about my decision. My baby is almost 8 weeks old. He weighed over 11 pounds the last time he was weighed. He still wakes up every few hours during the night to be fed. He sleeps a little longer than he did as a brand new newborn, but it doesn't seem to be as big of a change as what I read about this age. He's very healthy and on track with everything else growth-wise and developmentally. He's really interested in Christmas lights and sounds. My in-laws have several different Christmas decorations that move with lights and sounds, and he likes to watch those and will focus on them for a long time. He also focuses very intently on the Christmas lights on the tree when you hold him up close to it, especially when they're set to blink. Christmas was pretty hard for me. I used to love it. It just didn't feel like Christmas this year since everything is different. I didn't do any of the same things with my family that we normally do each year. I guess when you take away your traditions, it just feels kind of empty. It was bittersweet, I guess. I was happy that it was my son's first Christmas and wanted it to feel special, but I was so sad at the same time. I was doing okay managing my feelings for the most part but ended up crying several times on Christmas Day. My parents got me a few gifts, but I didn't see them on Christmas. They sent them to my in-laws' house. I talked to them twice on the phone. I spent Christmas with my new family, I guess. They bought me several gifts and tried to involve me in all of their traditions. I think it was hard for my mother-in-law having this be her first Christmas with only one of her kids living at home. It's just my husband and his older brother. His older brother couldn't come home for Christmas this year. He's an officer in the military and is deployed somewhere right now. My husband is home right now, but he will fly back to where he's stationed for training on New Year's Day. This is the longest he's been home since our son was born. And yes, I still feel weird calling him my husband, but people got annoyed when I used quotation marks, so I'm just saying. Things are almost more awkward when he's here. This is the 3rd time he's been home since the baby was born, but the first 2 times were only for a few days. This time, it's for about a week. As awkward as it is for me when it's just me here with his parents, we sort of have a routine, I guess. We have a dynamic now. He comes home, and it changes. I'm not saying it changes for the worse, but it's just different. It's hard to explain. This sounds bad, but to me, it's like he's not part of the family. I don't mean it to sound as bad as it does. It's just that I know his parents better than I know him now. And his mom also seems to forget that we aren't like a normal couple who are in love with each other. I feel like we both pretend or do things to make her happy. I'm not explaining it very well. You might be surprised to hear that he is good with the baby. He wants to hold him almost all the time, to the point where I have to tell him to put him down sometimes. The baby doesn't sleep long if he falls asleep being held unless you lay him down after a few minutes. I guess it's easy when you only have to do it in small doses, though. That's not meant to be negative toward him, because I know what he's doing every day is hard work. Since he's been home this time, he's mentioned that he thinks we should move out to where he's at and not wait until he gets permanently stationed somewhere. He's going to be where he is for training for over a year. This is hard for me to deal with since I'm not used to making my own decisions. I'm scared to say no to him, but not because of anything he's done. It's not him that makes me feel that way. I'm just used to decisions being made for me, so part of me feels like I'm just supposed to say yes and go out there. I don't want to go out there, though. I haven't even visited to see where he's at. He has no clue how hard dealing with the baby actually is because he's only here a few days at a time, and he still has people sort of telling him what to do and when. He offers to help, but he still has somebody, me or his mom, directing him, like, the baby needs to eat or the baby needs to be changed. I feel safe here with his parents. I don't think I'd feel safe out there, only because I'd feel like I was on my own. I'm not ready to be that much of an adult yet, having to think about food, grocery shopping, and all the household stuff. It terrifies me, and I feel like it would all be on me. I help out here now, but obviously, I'm not maintaining a household like that at all in my current situation. I take care of my son. I'm not going out, partying, or just sitting around watching TV while I let my mother-in-law do the work. But I'm also not having to worry about bills being paid, what we're going to eat for dinner, grocery shopping, and all that stuff. I had sex with him. Yesterday, he said, maybe later tonight, we can have sex? I told him I didn't know. It's not that I didn't want it because I feel attracted to him, but I feel self-conscious about my body now, about whatever our relationship is, and about doing things like that when his parents are home. Later at night, he asked about it again. His mom has us sharing a room while he's home. In his defense, he asked me if I wanted him to sleep somewhere else. There are no more bedrooms anymore, though, since I have his old bedroom and the other room is now a nursery. So he'd have to sleep on the couch in his own home, and I felt bad about that, so I said I was fine with him sleeping in the room with me. It doesn't really bother me, but it's just the weirdness of our relationship that makes it uncomfortable. He hasn't seen my body since before I gave birth. I told him I didn't want him to see me. I was thin with a flat stomach before. I was around 110 pounds before I got pregnant. I'm not too far away from that now, but I feel different in my own body. I know it's different now. And I'm still scared to even look further down. I still haven't looked down there in the mirror. He said I looked pretty thin to him and kept asking me to let him see me. Eventually, I gave in, even though I felt mortified. He said I didn't really look much different than before, other than some stretch marks, which he said were no big deal, but I'm sure he was just being nice. I still wouldn't let him see down there, though. It's so weird. I had sex with him multiple times before, even when I was pregnant, and I wasn't so shy then. But it almost feels like none of that stuff ever happened between us, and like this is a totally different person. I feel a lot more shy and nervous around him, and I wasn't that way with him before. He's like, we're married now, we're gonna live together, we have a kid, and we've obviously had sex before, what's the big deal? I still wouldn't let him look at me down there. I won't even look at it yet, even though my doctor told me it's healed. When things got to a certain point, I asked him if he had a condom. He said no and that he thought I was supposed to be on birth control now. I told him I was getting on birth control and that I was not getting pregnant again, but I haven't gotten on it yet because, who am I going to be having sex with? Either way, I want to use birth control and condoms just to be safe. He said, you're seriously going to be on birth control and make me wear a condom every time? I told him I honestly didn't know if we'd be having sex together or who else he was having sex with. He thought that was ridiculous and was like, we're married now. Who else are we supposed to be having sex with? He said I need to get over my insecure idea that he's out there sleeping with other girls because he's not a piece of crap like that. He basically admitted that even though we felt sort of forced into marriage and we both know the real reason for it, he wouldn't have done it if he didn't care about me and that he's trying to be committed and do the right thing beyond just a marriage on paper. I let him touch me, and he was gentle and respectful and told me things really feel the same as before. We didn't have sex because we had no protection. He asked if it was okay if he at least bought some condoms just in case, so we didn't have any accidents. I said that was okay. Then today, we went out to eat with his family, and it was the first time I was able to refer to him as my husband without feeling totally weirded out. Later, we were in our room, and it was very obvious where things were headed, but the baby was in there, sleeping, but still, and it felt too weird. Plus, I worried his parents would hear. So we had sex in the shower, and I made him wear a condom and pull out. We kissed for a long time, and it made me feel so good and happy. I have a pain in my stomach now, though, so I'm paranoid that I got hurt or that my body really wasn't ready to have sex. I'm also convinced his parents know, and that makes me feel extremely awkward. I feel like we shouldn't be doing it here in their home, especially after what they've done for me. I think maybe it might seem disrespectful to them, and I don't want to seem that way. I read the most recent repost of all my posts, and I just want to clarify that I'm not ungrateful to my mother-in-law or anyone in his family for what they're doing for me. I just don't know how to accept help sometimes, and it can make me feel uncomfortable. I don't say the things I share here to her face, I would never do that. I don't ever want to hurt anyone's feelings. The problem is that I'm so scared of hurting feelings or somehow making somebody mad at me and risking any tiny bit of security I have that I don't even know how to voice my feelings in a normal way. I can only see it going badly and can't imagine a way to express my feelings without upsetting someone, so I keep them to myself, or share them here. I also didn't get pregnant from a one-night stand. We weren't dating, but we had known each other for over a year, and it wasn't the first time we had sex. I'm not considering adoption, sorry to those still hoping for that. It's not happening. I don't think I can just easily get a certificate for something and land a super high-paying job. Everyone is misinterpreting that. I want to get certified in something, like a trade, that pays well. There are trades that pay well, some people with certain certifications can make more money than others with college degrees. My parents believe that any college degree is better than a trade and that pursuing a trade is embarrassing. They were already mad at me about that before I got pregnant. We argued about it. I simply expressed that I wanted to look into trades to see if there was anything I was interested in and might be good at that could provide a decent living. I felt that going to college just to get any degree when you have no idea what you want to do was pointless. They blew up over that and told me I'd be all on my own if I chose that path. You'll notice that's a theme with my parents, I'm on my own if I don't do exactly what they want. It's not like I was talking about becoming a stripper. It's not like I was ever on drugs, skipping school, or being a completely worthless, crappy human being. I simply wanted to consider trades as well as a traditional 4-year college. In response, I got sent to my room, yelled at, told I'd be on my own, and then a bunch of doors slamming. I've already decided that I'm not going to be that way with my son. Instead of trying to control him like a puppet, I will focus on raising him so that he makes good decisions, his own decisions. I want him to be his own person, with his own likes and dislikes, and to feel free to express them without always being scared that he'll be yelled at just for voicing his feelings. I also won't force him to go to college. I'd rather focus on helping him explore and experience life so he can find a field he's passionate about and then support him in achieving that, whether it involves trade school, a bachelor's degree, or even a PhD. It's more important to me that he finds happiness and fulfillment than to force him into a tiny little mold of my own creation. Sorry this was super long, but I haven't really posted an update since my son was born, so I guess I had more to say than I realized. 10th update 1 week later. I'm so sad, and I don't know what to do about it. I miss my family. I'm hurt by my parents, and I seem to realize more each day the different things they did that good parents wouldn't do, but I still miss them. I can't believe they didn't even ask about seeing me on Christmas. They just dropped gifts off for me here, didn't even give them to me in person. I talked to my mom on the phone twice on Christmas. She said she was going to call me today but never did. My dad only texts me, pretty short texts. He said Happy New Year, and then when I tried to initiate a conversation, nothing. My husband went back to the base where he's at for his training. Sorry, I still can't say husband with a straight face. How am I 17 years old with a husband, and my parents signed off on this? I would never let my son get married at 17. Today, I'm having one of those days where I just can't believe certain aspects of my life. Like, they don't even seem real, and I have to repeat them over and over to myself. The more I repeat them, the more unreal they seem. I'm married is probably the biggest one I struggle with. It's very weird. I even have a military ID now. We had to go to the base closest to where we live when he was home over Christmas to get it. I can't believe there's a marriage certificate with my name on it. It seriously feels like an out-of-body experience or something. He flew back early this morning. I've been crying over it since yesterday. I had so much anxiety yesterday that I was nauseous and shivering. I've never experienced that before. I just had this horrible feeling that something terrible was going to happen. Other than the sad moments I had, everything was so great over the Christmas break. I just wanted it to go on like that forever, minus Christmas Day itself and missing my family. We spent a lot of time together, playing games, watching movies, going out to eat, and going to local Christmas events. I actually enjoyed it and didn't feel like an awkward fourth wheel most of the time. It felt really nice. It reminded me of my family back when my parents weren't ashamed of me. We used to do those things together too. It wasn't even that bad when I had to meet all of his extended family at a Christmas party his parents had, which I was dreading, of course. He won't be able to come home again until next Christmas, most likely. We plan to fly out and visit him sometime this year, probably in the spring, but that means he might only see our son twice in person for the whole year. I'm supposed to go back to regular school next week. My mother-in-law arranged for an aunt to take care of my son during the day. She watches 2 other family kids, and she's like 60, with total grandma vibes at her house. I mean, I think he'd be safe there. I just don't really know her, but I wouldn't know anyone watching him at a daycare either. I don't really have a choice. I'm the one who stubbornly wanted to finish normal school just to prove to somebody, not sure who I'm trying to prove anything to, that I could. Now I regret it. I would rather just stay home with him all day and do online school, but I feel like we've already come so far with this plan for me to go back to school. I have no desire to go back now. My friends there aren't really my friends anymore. I'm just going to be that married girl with a baby. I don't know if I can go back. The thought just makes me want to disappear into the wall where nobody can see me. The nice messages people have sent me here have helped. Honestly, sometimes I just reread the really nice messages when I need a pick-me-up. Nobody has to comment on this post. I'm not really making this post for people to respond to, more just to get my feelings out somewhere because I feel like they're suffocating me otherwise. 11th update 1 month later. My husband was in an accident about 2 weeks ago. It had nothing to do with his military training. The training he's doing right now is all in a classroom anyway, so it's not really the type of thing that would cause injuries. He was a passenger in a car driven by his friend when a drunk driver hit them. His friend wasn't drinking and passed a breathalyzer test. The drunk driver got a non-serious gash on his head. The friend who was driving only had bruises from his seatbelt but is supposedly very shaken up mentally. My husband suffered a head injury so severe that he had to be rushed into emergency surgery to have part of his skull removed to relieve the pressure. He was later life-flighted to a different hospital with a specialized neurological ICU. When he arrived at the hospital, he was conscious and breathing on his own but out of it. A brain scan showed swelling, and his brain had essentially hit both sides of his skull. After surgery, he was placed in a medically induced coma for 48 hours to allow his brain to rest. I guess I was totally clueless and didn't realize that when you're in a medically induced coma, you also have to be on a ventilator and all that. When they tried to slowly bring him out of the coma, he had a seizure, so they put him back under. However, when they later brought him out of it again, he didn't have another seizure. So now, he is completely out of the medically induced coma and breathing on his own. He's still heavily sedated and sleeps most of the time. He has extreme head pain, which is why he's still very sedated and on pain medication. He remains in the neurological ICU. The good news is that he responds to all stimuli, can sort of talk, and, so far, his brain monitoring has shown very positive results. They are constantly testing and monitoring him, and his baseline test was really good, considering the situation. He continues to show improvement. The current doctors say that the first doctor's quick decision to open up his skull likely prevented the most extreme brain damage or death. Had they waited, sought second opinions, or done more tests before operating, the outcome would have been much worse. That said, he's not his normal self. He will have impairments, we just don't know what they will be or how severe. He cannot express himself verbally like he used to. His eye coordination is also affected right now. That's probably not the right term, but visually, he's struggling with focus. His motor skills are not 100%. He doesn't remember the accident at all, but he recognizes people, knows what year it is, and things like that. The doctors are recommending that he go to a rehab facility after being discharged from the hospital, but the full extent of his recovery, how long it will take, and what he'll need help with are still unknown. He's not ready to leave the hospital yet, as he's still in the ICU, but they are planning to step him down to a lower level of care soon. If everything goes well, he will eventually have the part of his skull put back in, but that won't happen for many weeks, possibly months. I haven't seen him in person. I've seen videos, but I'm not there. His parents flew out to be with him immediately and are still there. I'm here alone with my baby, which is also terrifying because I've never been alone with him for this long. I've been going to school as usual throughout this, And I didn't tell anyone what was happening because I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. It also just felt weird to say, by the way, my child's father is in a medically induced coma right now. Last week was really difficult. I almost didn't make it through. I didn't finish a big assignment for one of my classes, and I finally broke down and told one of my teachers about everything. Of course, they had to involve the school counselor, and it turned into this big thing that I really didn't want. I went to school this week, but I just couldn't do it today. I didn't have it in me. I couldn't wait for tomorrow to have a day off, so I just didn't go. It's hard for me because, growing up, I was never allowed to take a day off school. I had to be super sick for my parents to even consider letting me stay home, and when they did, they made me feel guilty about it. So now, I feel like I'm in trouble for missing just one day. This morning, I was basically just crying and unable to function. So yeah, his whole plan of a military career and retiring from the military is gone. Even if he makes a full recovery, he can never serve again with these injuries. And I know it sounds selfish, but I'm also worried about what this means for me and my son. I'm scared because we at least had some stability and security with his job and benefits. Obviously, I'm not going to bring that up to his parents right now. I know the only thing they care about is him, and that's how it should be. I don't know what to do. I feel bad that I'm here. It's not like I chose not to go be with him. There was never really a discussion about it. His parents just decided to go, not even knowing how bad it was at the time, and I stayed so I wouldn't miss school. It's not like school is a job where you can just take extended leave for a family emergency. Still, I feel guilty for being here. At the same time, I also don't really want to go. That sounds terrible, but it scares me. I've never seen anyone in a hospital hooked up to machines before. I was truly shocked when his parents sent me a photo. I wasn't prepared for that. They keep me updated, but I question how much they're really telling me. I think they withhold details, probably to avoid worrying or scaring me. I've had to look up several medical terms they've mentioned because they don't explain things fully. I feel like they're treating me like their child, like they decided that mom and dad would go take care of things while I, the kid, stay home because it's too much for me. They sugarcoat things when they talk to me, and I know they're keeping some details from me. But what can I do about it? That's just our dynamic. I really do feel like I'm their child, and it's hard for me to speak up. I know he is way more affected by this than I am, but now I feel like my whole life is up in the air again. I feel like I'm in limbo. Before, I worried about things like, what if he falls in love with someone else and divorces me before I'm ready to support myself? Those were the kinds of things I feared would come along and ruin my plans, not this.